Hey there, and welcome back to Google Ads Marketing for Chiropractors. This is David Spundia with Brand Rocket, and we are going to continue in this video series on how to launch very profitable campaigns for Google Ads for your chiropractic practice. So just to kind of recap what we've covered so far, we talked about conversion tracking. And by the way, if you haven't seen these videos, go back and watch them because there's a progression here, right? We're going through different steps. Conversion tracking, very important. Knowing your goals, which was the second video. Make sure you know your goals before you get into this. Budget was another video, knowing your budget, how much you can spend. We talked about the formulas of Google Ads, like the engine of Google Ads and what makes it work. So make sure you watch that one. We just recently talked about keyword research, how to do the keyword research. Make sure that you're identifying all the keywords that can bring quality traffic into your practice. And then now we're going to talk about structuring your campaigns, right? So we're going to be looking at high intent searches specifically. So back to the funnel. We're going back into the funnel. Let me just move myself out of the way here again. So again, let's go even further into the chiropractic funnel specifically. Okay. So we're talking about the way people search here, the way that they feel, right? Something feels off in my back, where they're unaware of what the solutions might be. Then they're more aware, problem aware, solution aware. My back is killing me. I wonder if chiropractic adjustment can help my back pain. All the way to the bottom, where this chiropractor seems to really know how to get my life back, to reclaim my life. I think I'll give them a call, right? And then we talked about the searches, the types of searches, and really this universe is vast. The types of searches, there's high intent searches that have the same pattern over and over again, and we know most of those because we work in so many chiropractic accounts, and that's the advantage, by the way, of working with us, because we can snap this into your account rather quickly. But if you don't, then you have to go through the process that we talked about in the last video, the keyword research process, which takes the most time for sure. But we are going to pretend that that's been done. Okay, so you've done your keyword research. You've invested the hours and hours that it takes to make sure you have the right keywords. And now we're going to structure the campaigns in a way. Now, we're not going to get into Google Ads yet because we're talking high level still in terms of like the structuring of these campaigns and what that means. Okay, so again, we're going to go into the funnel specific to Google, and we're going to talk a little bit about Meta as well, because Meta has a nice place, a nice little snap-in place in this process in the beginning, and then also maybe many months in. Okay, so everything has a schedule in terms of when certain campaign types get rolled out. Okay, so if we look at the way that the funnel looks in terms of like the Google Ads ecosystem, starting at the bottom of the funnel, we're talking about like high intent searches, right? What are the searches that convert into patients most often? And again, there's a lot of commonality here among chiropractors across the nation. So we know what those are. We just need to be able to structure them properly. So we capture that high intent search. We dominate the page position for that particular search, and we have the comfort of knowing that we're spending up to a certain amount on a CPC basis, cost per click, knowing that we have that padding, that cushion, the comfort of mind, knowing that we can invest up to a certain dollar amount and still be profitable and beat the competition day in and day out. Okay, and those are the high intent searches. We also have map packs, right? Making sure that you're in the Google Maps whenever somebody's searching in maps, making sure you're showing up, especially on mobile devices when somebody's really close to your location. And then what chiropractic doesn't allow this, but if display remarketing does snap in terms of like Meta, for example. So in Google Ads, because of HIPAA restrictions, we're not able to remarket. Google will shut it down immediately. Meta does allow it, so just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, so you can run that right away, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But as we move up the funnel, remember from the past videos, we do a bottom-up approach. So we're targeting high-intent searches, and then we work our way back, right? So then when somebody is more service-aware, we're still doing Google Search, we're still doing Google Maps. Solution-aware, we are targeting at that point still search. We're still doing search, but we're also doing display, right? So we're doing display ads. There's a way now in display ads, well, it's been there for a few years, where you can actually target search terms, okay? So it's not a direct targeting like in the search, but with a display network, you can say, okay, I want to find people that have done searches just like this, or I want to find people that have gone to websites just like this, which could be like competitor websites, actually, like chiropractic competitor websites. Okay. And you could do the same thing on YouTube. You could target different channels on YouTube. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways. The Discover Network, you can see that here, in Gmail, right? And going further up the funnel when somebody's not, they're far away from doing high intent searches. Again, you have that display network, you have YouTube, you have the same, Discover, Gmail, and unaware. When somebody's completely unaware, there's different ways to target those particular audiences as well, and they're much larger, right? As you move up the funnel, and that's why it's the shape of a funnel, those audiences are much larger. But there's a way to do this that's the opposite of what you would think. Okay, traditionally, you start at the top of the funnel, you work your way back or work your way down. With Google Ads, the smart way is to get in here at the high intent searches, start training the algorithm. So training the algorithm as to what success looks like, whether that's form fills or booking an appointment or making calls to your practice based off of those high intent signals. You're training the Google algorithm, and then you're able to expand it out with other campaign types over time, and then be able to, as you're expanding out, bring in more and more of those perfect leads that have a higher probability of converting into actual patients for your business. So let's talk about that. We're going to go all the way to the bottom of the funnel because that's where we start. So we're down at the bottom in the action spot, right? So we're trying to incite action. And this is where we have ads where we're targeting these known high intent searches. And there's a bunch of them, right? There's a bunch of them. And this is part of the build. Like, we actually separate these out. We call these campaigns isolation campaigns. So we are isolating these keywords. We are protecting them. We are bidding them up to the proper level so that you're dominating the page position. Remember, the higher up on the page, the higher your quality of leads, the higher your click-through rate, your CTR is, the higher your conversions, the higher quality of conversions. So we're targeting these high intent searches. And again, we're dominating page position. That's the intent, making sure that we're in the top 1 to 4, we'll call it, position in the search results for those very distinct keywords or the way that people search. And again, we're training the algorithm, right? So over time, we're training the algorithm with true success signals. And again, that's the bottom up approach. So this is pretty much like month 1 through month 2 or 3. It depends on your market, actually. So you can actually get there by going from in 1 month 1 to phase 2 in month 2. If it's a competitive market, it does take longer. So just know that. All right. Phase 2, now we target the unknown performers. And so many times I have created these campaigns. We've been training the algorithm. We launch another campaign type. So this is where we're talking about like maximize conversions. We also have target CPA that was used to hold maximize conversions in check, hold it to a performance standard, because we're using broad match keywords at this point. So this is where we call these particular types of campaigns exploratory campaigns. And these are internal naming structures that we have. So isolation campaign is to isolate the keywords that we know that truly matter to the business. That's phase 1. We train the algorithm, and then we launch in month 2 or 3, usually. We create this brand new campaign that's called an exploratory campaign. It's set with maximized conversions. It has broad match keywords. And usually if you did broad match by itself, which Google wants you to do because it's quite wasteful, if you did that right away, you would see all kinds of nonsense coming in. And you'd just be wasting a lot of money on your ad spend. But we do it in steps, right? This is very strategic. We do this in steps. So now we're in phase 2. We're targeting these unknown performers. But they're also high intent. So we're still at the bottom of the funnel, and I call this the inside approach for the bottom of the funnel. So the inside of the funnel is the high intent known searches. The outside of that particular portion of the funnel are these unknown searches. And again, the algorithm now is targeting buying signals. And these are obscure, unpredictable searches. Again, every time I go in, I look at the search terms on these campaigns that are converting into real business, real patients. I'm always just blown away. I'm like, I never would have known that somebody would search that way. So they're very obscure. They're long tail. They're not predictable at all. And the great thing about this is that they're higher search volume. So there's way more of those high intent obscure long tail searches that are unpredictable than the ones that are predictable. But there's a time and a place to actually introduce them. Okay, so that's phase 2. And this is where we start to get into scaling. We're moving up the funnel and we're starting to scale your ads and get more and more people on your website and converting into real patients. All right. So now we go into phase 3. We're continuing to move backwards in the funnel. Now we say, okay, now we can introduce Performance Max. If I would have introduced Performance Max in the beginning, when we had no idea what success looks like, the algorithm, the Google algorithm is clueless because it hasn't been trained on anything, you would just end up wasting a ton of money. And I see this over and over again because I do a lot of audits in chiropractic, and it's very wasteful to start with Performance Max first. There's a whole method here to introducing these on a timeline that makes sense so that we have the training in the signals in the account before we do so. But okay, well, again, we're working backwards in the funnel. We are training. We are expanding it out. We're growing and we're scaling. Okay, so those prior success signals have informed the algorithm and allows us to be able to even capture more and more of that traffic. And now we're going across YouTube and display and search and the discover and Gmail and Google Maps. We're everywhere, right? And it's very much like a really large brand where you see the ads everywhere. It's very powerful, extremely powerful once you get to this particular stage. So again, expanding across additional channels and then scaling and growing exponentially at this point. And then we can get into YouTube. Like once we've done all that training and we're going across networks, now we can do specific YouTube campaigns and they'll reach the right audience because we've done the proper training. Okay, so again, same thing. Video ads showing past website visitors, distinct interest behavior targeting, placement targeting on chiropractic channels, including competitors. We can then measure video consumption in terms of percentages and then retarget off of that. So there's a whole bunch of different things that we can do when we're at this particular stage, which is many months into the whole process. And then I mentioned this earlier, but Facebook and Instagram as part of the Meta platform, the ad platform, makes a lot of sense in the beginning as retargeting because Facebook does allow retargeting for chiropractic. So it makes sense to start that in the beginning. But your meta pixel should always be firing on your website, even before you start doing Google ads, because it's just great. It's great to get those signals, audience signals from your website over into Meta rather, so that Facebook and Instagram can learn more about your traffic. And that's even organic traffic, by the way. So even your SEO traffic or any traffic that comes into your website, it can learn more about the composition of your traffic and what that looks like for better targeting on that other platform. So I would say like Google and Facebook is kind of the 1-2 punch. You start at the bottom of the funnel doing the high intent targeting, you're training the algorithms, you're training Google, you're training Facebook, you're training Instagram, and you're able to keep on expanding, right? So it's very, very powerful. So I just wanted to lay the groundwork on what we're about to do because now we're going to get into building the actual campaigns and the way that it looks. We're going to actually look at a live account. I'm not going to go through, here's how you build your campaigns because quite frankly, the stuff changes all the time. Google's constantly changing the interface, right? So this video series is about the new interface, but I go in there from week to week and things are constantly changing. So it'd be very confusing if I did a recording right now of the interface, the user interface as it looks today, which is April of 2025, because it can change a lot and it'd just be very confusing. So just know that we're going to keep this semi-high level. I'm going to show you an actual account on how this is structured. But I'm not going to get into nitty-gritty details because the interface will change on a regular basis. All right. So thank you again for listening to this particular video. I'm glad you're along for the ride here. We're covering a lot of topics here that are very important, laying the groundwork, being very strategic about how we roll out these campaigns. Again, as I've mentioned before, this is, something that we do on a regular basis. So if you need help, just reach out. Okay. So I can be reached at brandrocket.net/schedule. If you just want to focus on your practice, focus on providing quality care to your patients. And then we do all the heavy lifting on the Google ad side. It's just a no-brainer a lot of times. Okay. So, all right, that's it for now. We'll see you in the next video.